And good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Also on YouTube at youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel. I am Chad Holmes, joined once again by former Wausau West hockey coach and current athletic director, BJ Brandt. BJ, good to see you.
Yeah, good to be here, Chad. Another week, another busy week of high school athletics.
Last show of January.
Some rescheduling in there a little bit, but
yeah,
we got it all rescheduled.
No, well, you got it all rescheduled apparently because you're the one that had to work very, very hard on it. But let's talk about. Actually, I should let you know what's happening tonight here on the program. We will, of course, be talking about what's going on in high school basketball and hockey, and we'll have our special guest coming up at 6:30 this evening. We'll be joined in studio by our coach guest for this week, Newman Catholic first-year girls basketball coach Katie Gaich. I remember when she was playing, actually, my first year doing Newman Catholic sports back in the 2001-2002 school year. She was a member of the first Newman Catholic girls basketball state championship team, as a member of the Newman Catholic Athletic Hall of Fame, and trying to take her alma mater back to the top. So we'll talk about setting the foundation and more with Katie Gaich at 6:30. Then our student athlete guest from Wausau West hockey, junior goaltender Julian Scalcucci at 7:06. So that's all coming up here tonight on the program. But with the coach being a basketball coach, we're going to start with basketball, and then in the second hour, we'll talk about what's going on in hockey. But start with the Wisconsin Valley Conference in boys high school basketball. Marshfield continues to roll. They are undefeated in conference at 4-0, 13-2 overall. Stevens Point and DC Everest are both 3-1 in the conference. Both those squads doing well overall. Evergreens 13-2. Stevens Point 10-4. Wausau East is 2-2 in the conference, 3-10 overall. Rapids 0-4 in league, 3-10 overall, and Wausau West is 0-4 in conference, and 6-9, I believe they are overall, if I'm not mistaken. 6-8.
It says 6-8 on.
I know it says so, but for some reason I thought maybe there was. I shouldn't say that, but sometimes the numbers get caught up. But we'll go with 6-8 for the 6-8.
We like that.
There you go. But again, last week was sort of blown up in terms of Wisconsin Valley Conference play because of Friday being the cold weather day where school was canceled and all these games were postponed. So basically, late last week, nothing in terms of the Valley and boys hoops, and that conference night was wiped away. They'll have to be made up here in the next couple of weeks. But here early this week, Monday, Rapids got a win, 66-49 against Lakeland, and then last night, DC Everest continues to roll. I mean, again, every time we look at the Evergreens recently, they're putting up a lot of points, and they beat Eau Claire Memorial 92-71 last night. And again, good balance. Ransom Dickerson, 25, Kate Felch, 24, Xavier Edwards, 16 for the Evergreens. And again, I mean, you said it when you were coming in, 13-2. I mean, almost a little surprising. They started with I remember they lost their first game, I think, to Superior.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think they may have been 1-2 in that, but they have a long winning streak right now and are just continuing to roll.
I mean, clearly offensively, I mean, when you look at the games, they've consistently scored, upwards of 90 points. And I think when you can put the ball in the hoop that many times, you're going to give yourself a chance to win, because then you just have to play defense. So clearly the offensive side of the court, they've figured that out and have been able to be very successful with it by putting up 90 points again this week.
And Marshfield continues to roll as well. And the number that stood out for them is they probably saw what Everest has been doing. They said, hey, we can score some points too, because they went up to Merrill last night and beat the Blue Jays 101-52. Vetter McTaggart. I mean, that's a name right there.
It is. That is the all-name team right there.
It certainly is. He also is putting his foot forward for an all-conference position with 33 points. Chris Pohl, 19. Valen Ramberg, 16 for Marshfield. Peyton Zimmerman, 16. Eli Burtman, 13. Cooper Wendorf, 12 for Merrill. And I think we were talking because we saw them at West a couple of weeks ago. It felt like, even watching them, they always had that little extra in their side pocket. I mean, that's a team that right now, it looked confident. It felt like they, when they needed it, they kind of knew they were going to have it.
Yeah, you almost felt like they could put their foot on the gas and then take it off and then put it back on the gas and then just keep like whenever they needed a shot, they were making the shot. I mean, it was really impressive to watch them because I mean to put up 101 points in two, what is it, 18-minute halves, like that is a lot of points to put up in a short amount of time. So I'd love to see their shooting percentage because they probably shot very well.
And the thing is, Merrill's not a bad basketball team. I know that Coach Pieper always prides himself on having a solid team, and to go on the road on a cold Tuesday night and do that again, I think that was sort of a, hey, don't sleep on us kind of game.
Absolutely.
Also last night, going up north with Wausau East, they lost to Rhinelander 74-63. Miles Casey had a big night for East, 25 points. Robbie Anjuli had 15 for the Jags, and Devin Feck 30 for Rhinelander. That Rhinelander team bouncing back from their loss to Mosinee, a very good team so far this season. And again, it's interesting to watch East develop because this year they're playing a schedule that maybe because a few years ago they had this really good team. They weren't playing quite the level of schedule. Then they finally were able to move the schedule around, and maybe this year they're kind of running into a very tough non-conference schedule. But I do think they do have some pieces, and it'll be interesting, I think, to watch as that group continues to develop.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you look at the way they built the schedule, obviously they struggled a little bit early, but when you have to replace that many kids within your lineup, no matter how prepared you think you can get them, there's nothing like the experience of playing basketball at the varsity level. There's no experience like seeing the speed, seeing the decision making, all of those things that happen there. So you can kind of see they're starting to come into their own because Rhineland is a really good team, and to put up a fight against them probably bodes well for them. It probably is a sectional game as they look towards to the playoffs, but certainly a decent performance for them, and they seem to be playing better.
Stevens Point put up 83 against Chi High last night, winning 83-66 as they continue to be right there as well. And Wausau West got a win against Antigo 63-37 last night over at the Fieldhouse. And I think for the Warriors, that was a much-needed win. I think they needed that W to get that feeling back because I thought into a little bit of a tough rut in terms of the confidence. And I think, again, you make a few shots, you get a W, that goes such a long way.
It does. And you know, for them to get that in front of the home crowd, the band was there last night. So for them to get that, I think it's good. Hopefully they can build into that as they go into DC Everest on Thursday.
And looking at the next week in the Wisconsin Valley Conference, you got a couple of conference games this Thursday, West and Everest. We'll have it for you here on 98.9 WXCO at 7 o'clock. Wausau East is at Stevens Point. Then you have Marshfield at Rapids Friday. Then the non-conference games also. Wausau West plays back-to-back, actually, Thursday and Friday. They'll be home against Ashland on Friday. Stevens Point and Hortonville. Again, we see Stevens Point, and I don't know whether you talk to the folks over at Stevens Point, the scheduling, because with their hockey team and their boys basketball team and even their girls basketball team, it always feels like they're playing a lot of Saturday games. And they tend to go on the road and they challenge themselves against teams either in the Big Rivers or in the Fox Valley Association. And they have this game at Hortonville Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think for them, it's really easy to go to the Valley down there. It's a pretty short trip for them. So the Saturday games would be interesting to talk about that scheduling because it does balance out your midweek stuff because you get a lot of Friday conference games. Obviously, they play on Thursday here, so they get a day off in there before they go to Hortonville.
And then a few games early next week. Spash has another road trip on Monday down to Waunakee. East is at Antigo Monday. Holman is at Marshfield Tuesday. Rapids at Rhinelander on Tuesday. Where are the conference games? Us old timers who remember all these conference games, we wail for the past with all these conference games, and now there's so many non-conference games.
My guess is some of these Monday games, as I've learned over the last few months, you don't typically schedule Monday games. So my guess is that Monday game East at Antigo is a makeup, the Spash at Waunakee is a makeup, and then you jump into probably one more round of non-conference, and then at some point we got to get to finishing up and crowning a Valley champ here.
I know it. We want it. We want some conference games here coming down the stretch as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. Merriwood Conference South in high school boys basketball. Marathon continues to roll. They are 7-0 in the, actually I should say 10-0 in the conference, 13-1 overall. And you talk about lapping the field. They're lapping the field right now because second place is Auburndale at 5-5, 8-8 overall. Edgar 4-5 in the conference, as is Assumption. Edgar 6-8 overall. Assumption 7-7. Newman Catholic 3-7, 6-11 overall, 2-7 for Stratford, 5-10 overall. But in the Merriwood South last week, I had a chance to see Newman Catholic against Rib Lake, and I think we may have touched on the fact that the Merriwood North is better this year, and we're seeing a lot more of these Merriwood North teams pull out wins against Merriwood South. And Rib Lake was a very impressive team, I thought, last Thursday, beating Newman 75-55. Marathon put up 101 against Abbotsford. Abbotsford's been playing in some high-scoring games, but when you face Marathon, if you let them again run up and down the court and score, that doesn't mean Marathon is going to say we're going to let you score, because Marathon prides themselves on defense, and Marathon beat Abbotsford 101-33, and that's hard to do because of course we get to 40 points, the clock starts running.
It's crazy to me. I mean, 101 points in that amount of time, and then like you said, it goes. You go running clock, and I mean it goes fast. So for them to be able to do that, it's really impressive offensively.
Last night, there were conference games in the Merriwood South. Our Tom Weaver was on hand at Newman Catholic for the game. We had a doubleheader night of high school sports last evening, and Tom saw Marathon defeat Newman Catholic 68-47. Garrett Bracewell 16, True Thirds 15. Again, they just are so balanced all the time. Marathon, they had that game against Mosinee recently, didn't bother them one bit. They've come right back and just kept on winning. And again, Adam Jacobson runs such a solid program there at Marathon. Then you had Auburndale win in Edgar. That was a significant game because that puts Auburndale 5-5 in the conference, drops Edgar to 4-5, 39-36, and Stratford upset Assumption 51-49. That's only the second conference win of the season for Stratford. But again, it's a little bit of a different year in the Merriwood South because so many years when Jeff Gress was sitting across there, we talk about because he was always so proud of that. His buddies who were coaching, getting 18, 19, 20 wins overall and having all these battles at the top. Right now, it's just Marathon, and Marathon is just doing what Marathon does. And again, I find that to be so incredibly impressive because they are just consistent in how they play basketball.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the two, Merriwood North and South, there's definitely the top in both of those. Where you're looking at Prentice at 9-1 in the conference on the north side, sitting at 12-2 overall, and on the south side, you've got Marathon. I mean, that's when you look at those two conferences, those are kind of the two you're looking at. Marathon at 10-0. So it's really interesting to see. You know, it would be great to get a crossover. You know, something where you get that matchup to determine the real Merriwood Conference.
They did that for a few years, and it was kind of cool for a couple of years, and then it kind of just faded away.
I'm sure. I mean, it would be great this year because you've got two teams at the top that are clearly above the rest of the conference. So this year might be the way for it. But you know, it's interesting. I mean, you get Stratford to beat Assumption. I mean, that's a big win.
Yep. And when you look at the schedule coming up, and they have another conference night coming up on Friday. Marathon will host Assumption. Newman heads to Auburndale, Edgar at Stratford. And then Monday, Marathon at Columbus Catholic. And Columbus, always a really good team, always a very solid team, a team that's been to the state tournament, winning state in the last couple of years. So that'll be a big test for Marathon on Monday at Columbus. And actually Tuesday, the game I put on there because I saw the Northeast Wisconsin homeschool team against Newman earlier, and you think, oh, they probably aren't great. They got some big kids, and they play some good basketball. They went into Newman and beat Newman earlier this year, so those Auburndale Eagles better watch out for the homeschoolers from Northeast Wisconsin because I was impressed with what I saw earlier this year. Great Northern Conference. You got a big battle at the top, Mosinee and Rhinelander. Mosinee rolling. They're 7-0 in the conference, 12-2 overall. Rhinelander 7-1 in the league, 13-2 overall. Then Merrill is 4-3, along with Pines at 4-3 in the conference. Merrill 7-9 overall. Pines 10-5. Medford 4-4 in the conference, 5-9. Lakeland 2-5, 4-10 overall. Antigo 1-7 in the conference, 3-11 overall. And Tomahawk still looking for their first win. They're 0-7 in the conference, 2-13 overall. And game that kind of jumped out to me involving these schools is Pines. Last night, and I mentioned this to you, they played Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, but Whitburn came in 12-2. These are teams that are in the same sectional and regional, so they could play pretty early on in the playoffs. And Pines beat Whitburn 51-44. I've been we've been keeping an eye last couple of years on Whitburn because they've had some really good teams, haven't been able to really get past, the sectional round. But I thought we saw Pines back Thanksgiving weekend. They could put the ball in the hole. Milo Albrecht had 18 points in that game. And again, they've been a little inconsistent at times as well. I mean, they're 4-3 in the conference, 10-5 overall, but they got talent. And I think when they put it together, they're capable of beating really good basketball teams.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, to beat a 12-2 Wittenberg team is going to be, a great accomplishment for them. Here's the part that'll drive me a little bit nuts, Chad, is when we go to the seeding process. Wittenberg will be seeded higher than Northern Pines, even though Pines beat them. And that's where I am old school when I say this. I think the coaches get it right. And for Northern Pines, what a huge win for probably from the rankings and ratings perspective for them when it comes to seeding.
Absolutely. And Mosinee has not played in the past week. They're probably enjoying the glow of that big win at Rhinelander a couple of weeks back. They are back in action tomorrow night, hosting Lakeland, and then Friday night, a big night of conference play. Merrill at Mosinee, Antigo at Rhinelander, Pines at Tomahawk, Medford at Lakeland. I got to look it up here real fast because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the first time that Mosinee and Merrill played this season, they played a very close game. I got to just double check that because at this point of the season, when you are 7-0, you have to look for those areas that maybe you can stub your toe just a little bit. Yep, it was an overtime game actually up in Merrill back in mid-December when Mosinee edged Merrill 68-65. They've played each other in the postseason a couple of different times in recent years. Merrill went to Mosinee and knocked off a number 1 seed a couple of years back. This is one of those games for Mosinee that they have to be, I think, very focused on when Merrill comes in on Friday.
Yeah, especially when you look a little further ahead. Rhinelander and Mosinee played the last regular season game of the season for the Rhinelander schedule and probably also for Mosinee. So if you can take care of this one, you set yourself up down the line when it comes to conference championship.
Absolutely. And let's turn to the girls' side and starting with the Wisconsin Valley Conference. And again, we've been talking about this throughout the course of the season, where Stevens Point has been the team to beat in the WVC throughout the course of the campaign. They are 6-0 in the league, 14-3 overall. But then there's Everest at 4-2, 9-8 overall. Wisconsin Rapids 4-3 in the conference, 10-7 overall. Marshfield now 3-3 in the conference, 5-12 overall. Wausau West 1-5, 5-13, and Wausau East 0-5, 2-11. Looking at the games that kind of jumped out to me, I think what Stevens Point did Saturday in their non-conference game against Hudson was one of those games that was important with sectional implications. They beat Hudson 65-58. Jada Seibert 31, Leah Awi 18 for Stevens Point. By the way, I was informed that Jada Seibert is heading to Iowa.
Wow, that's a heck of a commitment.
Caitlin Clark's old school.
So. Absolutely.
So that's a Central Wisconsin kid who's going to be going big time to the University of Iowa. And also last night, Marshfield went to Rapids and won 64-57 because we saw Rapids on Monday when they went to Wausau West for a makeup game from last Friday. Rapids looked really good, beating West 62-24. But on the second half of the back-to-back, Marshfield able to get the W. And the thing about a team like Marshfield, they have struggled so far this season. As I said, 5-12, but they have won their last couple of conference games. They beat West by double digits. Now they beat Rapids on the road. I think a coach like Heidi Michaels, who's been around the block more than a couple of times and taken her team to the state tournament multiple times, is going to find a way to make that team better.
Yeah, I mean, just the experience alone. You get to the second half of the year, you really hope that you can show your improvements. You can show that your youngsters aren't young anymore, and that you can get them, doing the things systematically that you want, and then you hope they can just start to execute. I mean, that's what it comes down to. You still have to shoot the shots and make them. So obviously, playing really well right now, and certainly something she hopes to have them do continuing here.
And Monday night, I think a very important win for DC Everest in terms of the building of the program back. They beat Assumption team that's always near the top in Division 5. You think, Everest being a bigger school, but Assumption has been going to state on a regular basis. They've been in the rankings this year. I think maybe a little over-ranked this year. I think after this game, they're going to drop out. But at the same time, it's still a program that has a great tradition, and Everest winning 47-39. And again, I mean, when we saw Everest at the field house back earlier in the season, it's like, it was really a struggle. It was not a pretty basketball game, but they've been able to turn it up a notch, win some important games, win sometimes ugly. But boy, I mean, and I shouldn't say ugly, because if you win based on the back of your defense, that's not really ugly. It's just winning in a different way than putting up 80 points in a game.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways to win, and they've been finding ways to do it. I mean, when you look at their overall, they're just above 500, but obviously, in the conference, I feel like they've played really well, and they get another test here on Friday against West. West goes over there and that was a tight game the last time we watched that one. That was a really tight game, and
West had a double-digit lead in the second half.
Yeah, and you look at there's such a slim margin when you want to earn these conference wins, regardless of what the conference is. So that'll be a fun game to watch.
Merriwood South, and again, we had a chance last week to talk to Jeff Schneider, and boy, his team really had a good week. There was no jinx by coming on this program, definitely, as they continue to battle right at the top. You have Stratford at 9-1 in the conference, 14-2. Marathon 9-2 in the conference, 14-2. Assumption 8-2. They're still right there, 11-6 overall. Auburndale right there, 8-3, 12-6. Then you have Edgar at 4-6, 7-9, and Newman Catholic 2-7, 5-11. And this is basically what when I was saying earlier about the boys' side, this is what we normally see in the Merriwood South.
Yeah, when you look at it, I mean, there's the top 4 teams have double-digit wins already this season, and very few losses in conference. So you can see there's going to be a battle down to the stretch there for that conference title.
And Marathon was just impressive. They beat Abbotsford 82-41 on Thursday. They beat Edgar 69-44 on Monday. So they just are winning, and they're winning in impressive fashion. And as I said to the coach last week, this version of the Marathon squad can score. They were having struggles offensively, putting the ball in the hole the last couple of years. So they continue to be very impressive. They have a big game against Auburndale coming up on Thursday night. Massive game in the conference. Assumption is at Edgar, and Stratford at Newman Catholic as well coming up. Then Marathon is at Pines in a non-conference game Saturday. And then an interesting game on Monday. Neelsville, always a very good girls basketball program, will play Assumption. You have Whitburn, who's an outstanding girls basketball team, at Auburndale. And then East and Newman get a chance to play each other on Monday, which is always fun. And I should have mentioned in our Valley discussion that East got a nice win against Tomahawk. They had 11 3-pointers in their victory last night. So, again, you like to see where these programs are trying to build block by block to have some positivity, and that was a good win for East.
Yeah, I feel like this time of year, I think regardless of where your team started the year, is where you can start to see growth. And you'll see that growth, whether it's how you played in the first half and you start games or how you finish games. I mean, there's lots of ways for teams to grow that may not necessarily lead to wins and losses or to wins in the record, but as you start to build, and you look at Marathon. They've done that. They built over the last 3 years, and coaches reaping those benefits of all the investment he's put into that group to have the season they're having.
And one more game that I think folks who follow girls basketball here in Central Wisconsin will keep an eye on for next Tuesday. Marathon is at Columbus, and Columbus right now is ranked 5th in the state in Division 5. So Jeff Schneider's team will have a very stiff test coming up next Tuesday at Columbus Catholic. And I've done games there. That can be loud at times in that gym over at Columbus. And then finally in the Great Northern Conference, and again this year it's just a different feel, because after all these years where Lakeland was just had that incredible run of talent that went through, right now it is Mosinee leading the way at 9-0 in the conference, 10-4 overall. Medford is 6-1. In the conference, 10-5 overall. Rhinelander 5-4 in the league. Pines 4-6. Lakeland and Merrill 3-5. Tomahawk 3-5, and Antigo is 1-7. Merrill got a nice win against Pines last night. I should say not last night, but last Thursday night, 60-45. Based on the standings, that was a bit of an upset, especially being played up in Eagle River. And Medford beating Rhinelander by 2 last Thursday was a big game, because that put Medford at 6-1 in the conference, keeps them within 1 game of Mosinee. One of the tougher matchups you're going to have is against third place Rhinelander. Needed to find a way to win that game. And then last night, Mosinee all over Lakeland, 64-32. So again, we talked earlier about Mosinee with their coach earlier this season, and things are going, I think, again, shouldn't put words in anybody's mouth, but to plan. They're challenging themselves in the non-conference. They're taking care of business in the conference and in good shape to win a league title.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at their 4 losses, it's Wittenberg, Neelsville, Eau Claire Memorial, and Rice Lake. So all programs that are having successful seasons, and then they've taken care of business at the conference level. I mean, they've they've set themselves up well for a conference championship as well as trying to make a run here throughout the playoffs.
And another game for folks to keep an eye on next Tuesday. There's some big games all over the place on Tuesday. Mosinee is at Pacelli. Pacelli is ranked number 2 in the state in Division 5. So that will be another intriguing non-conference matchup. But you know me, I prefer intriguing conference matchups. But
it's really hard to find a conference matchup in the Valley here. But you talked about, all we go to the other conferences, and you're talking about conference matchups.
Yep, you're exactly right. So they have to look at what's going on in high school basketball, both on the boys and the girls sides. But coming up next, we'll have our coach guest for this week, an opportunity to talk to the first-year head girls basketball coach at Newman Catholic High School, Katie Gage. We'll talk about building the program over at Newman, something she knows a thing or two about during her playing days. So we'll talk to the Newman Catholic head coach, Katie Gage, coming up next. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO on the Civic Media app and on YouTube at youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel.
Local radio thrives when it serves the community. WXCO is no different, and we're looking to add someone to our staff that is well connected around town. Someone who can help our local businesses increase traffic and their visibility among our audience. From connecting clients with high school sports, local news and weather, or the Chad Holmes Show. If you know local business owners, we'd like to get to know you. If you'd like to know more about this opportunity, send me, Chad Holmes, a message at chad.holmes@civicmedia.us. That's chad.holmes@civicmedia.us. And let's set up a time to talk.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With BJ Brandt, I am Chad Holmes, and we're very happy to welcome in our coach guest for this week from Newman Catholic High School, first year, Katie Gage. And Katie, good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I was saying to BJ earlier that the first year I was doing games at Newman was the year that you won the state championship.
Yeah,
and
that was a fun one.
You were on the court. It makes me feel old seeing you now being the coach of the Fighting Cardinals.
Same here, Chad.
I guess the first question is, and I asked you this the first broadcast, and I'm asking you again here tonight, what it feels like to come back to your alma mater where you've had so much success, where you're honored, on the wall as a athletic Hall of Famer. What's it like to come back and be in the shoes of the head girls basketball coach at Newman Catholic?
It's a really cool experience. Newman Catholic basketball is such a wonderful history. And, my team for my playing years was definitely not the first team to meet with success. There were, generations before me who went to state like 20 years before. And it's a long time coming, and, every school has its ups and downs, but the key is that we need to keep our school spirit throughout it all and make sure we stick together. So coming back, years later as a coach, I think it's important to keep those memories alive and keep the spirit carrying through the program and make sure we keep our eyes on the right things. And yes, we're playing basketball, but it's really about, coming together as a school. And it's fun to, be in a spot to be able to help the kids live that out.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about your playing days, what do you take from that as a coach to instill in your current players, knowing that you have so much pride in what happened while you were there as a player?
It's it's fun to see it from a different perspective, and carrying through playing lessons into coaching lessons doesn't always translate one to one. I was lucky as a player to be able to see some of the life lessons of sports while I was playing it. And, some people don't get to that point. Some people are focused on, just the stats or just, what they're producing out there. And they sort of don't get to the life lessons until later. So I was lucky to have amazing coaches who were really good at making sure that we knew the purpose of what we were doing while we were doing it. Like we all know that Tom Weinkoff and all of the assistants that I've, had through him as his helpers were they were all wonderful at making sure that we not only were good basketball players, but we were good people while we were doing it. So that's a key thing that I've brought forward as a coach. Like I tell my girls, I really want to help you as a basketball player, but I really want to help you as a person too. And so I try to keep things in perspective. If they have, interviews or classes or tests or college visits, like that's a huge part of their lives too. So I try to make sure that we keep it in perspective.
Well, I'm going to take it out of perspective for a moment and ask you the fun questions. When you do look back, what do you take away from that experience? You were at state a couple of times, right? So
Yes.
you went to the first year, you lost in the semis, and then that was the first trip. And then the next year, you went and beat Boyceville, I think it was, right?
It was Boyceville in the finals
like
by
30,
3 points,
like
33-30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of those real thrillers there.
I'm not sure, but at the time, I think that was the record for the lowest cumulative score of a championship
And
game.
it was actually in the field house. People will forget that.
It
You
was,
actually
yeah.
played in the field house back in those days. What do you take away from that experience? I mean, it's been a while now.
Yeah, it has been a while. I have to dust off some of the memories. But
Anything
I mean,
still stand out about the whole idea of going down to state and winning that gold ball?
going down to there's a lot of work that goes into it before you get there, and I think people sometimes forget that. Like you look at it from the outside of either a building program or like a 500 team. There's a lot more that you need to put into it if you want to get to that level. And this year with Newman Catholic, we've had a chance to play a variety of teams, and you can tell who puts in what sort of work. And like when you made the road trip down to St. Mary's and Appleton with us, Chad, like that was, which is wonderful to see you down there, by the way. Like that program is like amazing, and
Yeah.
some teams you can see them play and you know exactly what they do in practice. And so like remembering back 20 whatever years ago, like I remember how many hours we practiced every single day. I remember the camps we went to. I remember like, the D1 teams that our coach arranged for us to play to make sure that we were always playing against a tough competition. Like there was no messing around in practice. There was nothing like that. So it's good to remember how hard you need to work to get where you want to go. But it's also important to remember, every team's goals are different. And sometimes when you're starting at a certain point, you're going for confidence, or you're going for, smaller wins that eventually build up to the bigger things. So I'm very thankful to have good, big memories of the past that we can keep working toward.
Well, when you look at your team, obviously you get together in November and here we are towards the end of January. What have been your biggest growth areas? What are you most proud of what they've been able to do, regardless of the results, the games? Because obviously you're building something. You're in year one here. What are you most proud of so far?
The improvement in our defense, honestly. So we've really gotten back to the basics and hammered on the fundamentals. Like, hey, it's not just man-to-man defense is not just, one-on-one 5 times on the court. This is a whole system that we need to put in place. We need to make sure that we're helping in the right spots. So we get our timing down, we get our talking. And, I wasn't there last year or the years past. I don't know what their youth training was like. I know that, I'm still in touch with a lot of their youth coaches, so they know what they taught them. But, if they forgot something or are doing it differently, it's a matter of pulling together, who are we now as a team and making sure that our defensive system works together. So definitely on the defensive side, being a first year coach, it's, it takes a while to get to know new people and the player combinations. So it's been really rewarding to get to know everybody as individuals, but then figuring out how do we put that all together? These 3 people are, always willing to fire up threes. These people are willing to learn post moves. I mean, the game has changed a lot. So it's interesting for me to come from like an old school method, even, what we ran 20 years ago was probably more in style 50 years ago, but it works. There's a reason it was still working. But I mean, stuff is much more outside these days. And so it's been fun to not only pick up our defense, but come together and figure out what is our combination this year? How can we make things happen?
Something you said when you were talking about, again, how hard you worked to get to where you and your teammates got back in 01 and 02. How do you try to get it across to your team? Because I think one of the challenges for a coach is you got kids, whether it's boys or girls, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, whatever it may be, who think they're playing as hard as they can, or they're working as hard as they can. They're doing the things in the off season to the best of their ability, but they're not. That they got more in them. It's not a case of just trying to pound on them to do it, but that they got more in them. How do you what tools do you use in that way? Because obviously the best coaches have that ability to be able to say, yes, I know you are working, but you can work a little bit harder. And because to get to that level, I mean, there are no shortcuts, are there?
There are absolutely no shortcuts. Like, hard work is going to be everything else all day. I think that the building process and trying to show people how hard to work is a process. It's not just going from 0 to 60 on day one. It's trying to figure out what is their current tolerance for, working hard. How do we step them up in a way that doesn't feel like nitpicking or like we're being, punitive? Because you need to increase it. They have to buy into it. You have to make sure that they're having fun while they're working hard. Otherwise, they're not going to want to do it. Because, I mean, they're putting in their time and effort just like we are as coaches. It's got to be something that they believe in. So it has to come from within. And so a lot of it comes down to trying to find out what are the individual motivators that the people have within them, and how do you get them to tap into that for themselves? It doesn't come from me.
Again, we're talking to Katie Gaich, first-year head girls basketball coach at Newman Catholic, here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. One more quick question based on, again, your background, because you have been working with some of the younger levels in the Newman schools, correct? For folks who, what coaching experience within Newman had you had that before you got this job?
Sure. So I, before my high school role here, I was a youth coach for 4 years. So I started with the current 8th graders when they were in 4th grade. We were a combined team of 4th and 5th, sort of followed them through. And one thing that struck me as I was coaching the younger years was that there needed to be more coordination among the youth ages to make sure that we were building a program. And, looking ahead when I was, at the younger years to the high school coaches, I thought I'm asking for plays or what do you want us to do? There wasn't necessarily, a guidebook of what to do. We sort of had to build it ourselves. Not saying that was the wrong thing to do, because high school plays, you can't always run as 4th graders. So no fault there at all. But, it's been interesting to really watch that group grow, and coached the current 5th graders when they were younger as well, helped with the 6th graders, organized practices with the 7th graders. So it's really been wonderful to work with the coaches, like alongside the coaches of those ages, and with the girls as they're growing up. And I hope that they see the connection that the coaches on the youth side have built over the years to make sure that they have a really positive building experience and they look forward to playing in high school.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important when you're trying to build a program, is the continuity that you have from the youth to the high school, and the common language and just common expectations. Like, as you look at the schedule, so you've come up shorter than you probably wanted to on the scoreboard. What do you define as success, or what are the measurements that you obviously mentioned defense and how you're playing defense, but what measurables are you looking at to show the progress, so that there is that confidence that's building throughout the year?
Yeah. We set a lot of goals within each game. So it might be points allowed, it might be points scored, it might be holding a certain person below her average, it might be out rebounding a team. So we need to take each game as it comes and see, where can we meet with success? Where can we know that we are better than somebody, even if the points don't wind up that way? So it comes into a lot of research from the coaches identifying those areas, setting goals for the players, and making sure we're prepared for the few days before in practice, so the kids know what our goals are and what we're working on and why. So it really comes to breaking it down. What are the building blocks, and where can we find our own success?
And I imagine that, well, I'll take Marathon, for example, because the first time around you had a rough go of it when you were over there.
Yep.
The second time around, a team that was 14-2, and it was a 2-point game.
Mhm.
I imagine as you go through the second round of the Marywood South, those are the kind of measurables you're going to want to see your girls improve against these
Absolutely.
opponents, right?
Absolutely. And Marathon was a great example of that. And, the first game was more points than I care to mention. I'm sure other people remember, but, we took that as fuel for the fire to make sure that, let's not let that happen again. And, we don't always get better the second time we play all of the teams. And we had another example of that the other night. But, we have to come ready to play every time. We know we play well at home. We really enjoy the support of our fans and making sure that we can get the stands as full as we can. These girls really have great relationships with their families and their friends, and they appreciate that support. So, the second time around, a lot of these games, yes, we do want to improve. We always have plans to bring our best, but we know the other team is going to bring their best as well.
Real quickly, again, just based on the consistency, that's hard sometimes. I think that's one of the things that when you're trying to establish a culture and establish a program, that sometimes you're going to see a lot of things kind of come together pretty well, and then other nights it just for whatever reason won't come together. I mean, you talk about playing better at home, but I thought I remember watching on tape the game against Stratford on the road, and that Stratford team's obviously a very good basketball team, and you actually played toe-to-toe for much of the night against them. So I imagine it, in a sense, there's some frustration at times because you want to see it a little bit more consistently. But I imagine this way you're talking, that you understand that the consistency sometimes is one of the last things that comes.
Correct. I mean, you need to have the breadth of experience to be able to practice things in certain situations before you get comfortable with it. And then after that is when you get good with it. So it's sort of difficult in this high school environment where the team is changing every single year and you're constantly reinventing yourself, or, this person is sick or this person is hurt. But you always need to be, deep enough to make sure you're ready to go no matter what combination you need. So yes, consistency can be difficult.
Talk about your roster a little bit. Who's been some really good performers and great leaders for you throughout the year?
Sure. Yeah, we have a total program in high school of 13 kids this year. And so everybody has a chance to step up at any given time. So we have 12 who are eligible for varsity and one JV player. And, everybody has shown on the court so far this season. And it's been really wonderful to see. We've had, Mallory Razwadowski is fabulous at threes. Maddie Jankowski is really stepping up in that area as well. Aubrey Pent really, controls the floor and is, a calming force out there for us. Lexi Klinecki has been doing a fabulous job with rebounding. She hasn't played since she was a freshman. And, she's also balancing this with a really competitive swim career, and she's going to go on to swim D1 at Marquette. So, Bree Schultz has been, really finding her groove with driving and making sure that we keep up the intensity in practice. I could keep going down the list. We have a lot of really fabulous people who contribute in various ways. And again, with the consistency, like, people don't always score their average. They don't always rebound their average.
Right.
And, sometimes, somebody will surprise us with 23, 24 points, and some nights not so much, but you got to celebrate the wins where you can get them. And they're a great group of girls. They really are. We've got, 5 seniors who've been playing together for a long time, and you can tell they love it and they love spending time with each other. So it's really fun to see them just, be friends and enjoy doing something together.
It says a lot when you are able to get somebody like Lexi Klinecki, who has so much promise in another sport, to say they want to be part of what you're doing. I imagine that's something that for you as a first-year coach, to have somebody say, hey, I want to be part of it. I want to be part of this team. I want to be able to help in any way possible. That's the kind of message that you probably want to have sent out, that this is the kind of program you want to be part of.
Yes, exactly. And Lexi's so organized about her time and so disciplined, as you would imagine from a swimmer. But it definitely did feel nice to have somebody want to join. And I know that was probably in large part to, her teammates and her friends talking her into it and saying, hey, this is, a new time. Maybe you want to join and, come give it one more season. And I don't pretend that it's about me, but it's about, the good times that she has with her friends. And that's the reason she gave me for wanting to come back. But, I hope other people see that into, other small programs out there too. Like, we value every single person who wants to come play, because a good coach can turn a good athlete into a basketball player very quickly. It's a complicated sport, but you teach somebody the basics when they're athletically gifted, and they're going to be just fine. So
talk a little bit. So you've coached youth and you jump into the high school game after having a super successful high school career. What surprised you a little bit jumping into the high school world?
You can be honest here. We want to hear the good stuff here.
I'll say, as a former center, I've been surprised that nobody does post moves anymore, except for Stratford, which I know we're going to see.
By the
tomorrow,
way, real fast, let me jump in here.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, and even on the boys' side, we don't see tall kids anymore.
I know. It's
we
like, where they all go.
Were you part of the 3 6-footers at Newman, or is that
We only had 2.
Okay, it was
Me
right
and Dana
after.
Schultz.
Yeah,
Yep.
you and Dana, and then I think after that you had Newman.
There's Val and sure.
I know. It's
Mariah
like,
was
but
pretty
where
tall,
have
but
all the tall girls
I
gone?
don't know.
But I'm sorry. But
Right.
yeah, continue to give us all the juice.
Yeah, the lack of post moves.
what
But I
you
will
learned
say,
here.
like for tomorrow with Stratford, they're very well trained in the post. So I've been able to pull on my old memories to be like, hey, here's a drop step. But like, so we've had to get a little creative with how do we defend these things, and but they're picking up on the basics really well. It's as I mentioned earlier, much more outside heavy game. Like, people are popping threes all over the place. But it's very fast. I feel like it's more physical than it used to be. I don't know. I was in the middle of like all the elbows and everything back in the day. But these girls are strong. It's really great.
You mentioned, again, going back to where you came from, the girls in the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, 8th grade now.
Yep.
How has it been developing the relationships with the girls that you're coaching this year? Is it how easy or difficult? Because you probably knew all the girls you were dealing with the last few years.
Absolutely.
You had a great feeling around. You knew what their idiosyncrasies might be. Talk a little bit about for a first year coach coming in where they weren't an assistant, they weren't right in the midst of it. How difficult, how easy has it been in terms of developing the relationships with your girls?
I don't know. I had to it started out trying to feel, what is the temperature of the water? Like, what are their relationships first? Because I didn't want to come in and just be like, this is my way, this is my personality, this is the new normal. Like, I needed to fit in. They were here before me. And so I needed to figure out, what is their personality first, and where do I fit in? And with my youth teams, you can act differently with a 9-year-old than you can with an 18-year-old. Like, you can do more silly stuff with the little kids. Like, we're not going to do red light, green light with the high school. But so it's been an interesting process. I feel like we've figured each other out pretty well by this time of the season. But I didn't want to come in and assume everything was a certain way, and like I needed to fix something, or I needed to, be this sort of a coach instead of that. I tried to give them space to tell me through their actions and their words, like what they needed. So it might have taken, like a few extra weeks compared to, what I'm used to with my youth teams. But I feel like we're on good footing now, and we have a good basis for the future and for the rest of the season.
You talked about a lot of the life lessons that you get to learn as a player. How have you incorporated that as a coach to be able to obviously teach life through basketball, teach life through sport? Because it's always, those are the things you talked about, things that you remembered. How do you do that now as a coach?
Yeah. And we've had several examples where life lessons have come into play. Some of them are through winning, some of them are through losing, and some of them are through injuries. So with winning, it's always fun. It's an easy lesson to teach, hard work pays off. But sometimes a win comes from what you're doing well. Sometimes it comes from what other people aren't doing well. But, it's an easy one to be like, hey, you guys were working hard. You executed well when you're focused and all, everything comes together. That's going to lead to success. The lessons that come from losing, are harder, but those are the ones, frankly, that are more not about the sport of basketball. Those are the more direct life lessons, because sometimes you can do your best and still wind up on the losing side. And that's a hard thing to swallow, especially for younger kids, that, your best isn't necessarily enough to get you where you need to go sometimes. Sometimes somebody's best is better than yours. And I mean, that's going to happen throughout life. With injuries, that's been sort of the hardest source of lessons that we've had to deal with on the team this year. We've had 2 concussions, a knee injury, we've had a broken rib, a lot of sprained ankles. Like, I don't know. Like I said, they're tough, but I mean,
much more physical game.
it is a much more physical game. But I mean, the public doesn't see all of that, but that's stuff we're working through in the background. Like, there's the disappointment, there's the shifting of roles within the team. There's, somebody being asked to step up when they might not necessarily feel 100% ready. There might be somebody who is injured who really doesn't want to, give up their time, and might be pushing through something that they're not, supposed to push through. And, it's my job to make sure that they stay safe. But like, again, winning is easy, losing is harder, but the injury, that's the longer lasting lesson. It's really important to take care of yourself, important to take care of each other, and be open to different roles as the season goes on.
As an avid fan of sports, I tend to, like in basketball and the sport of hockey that I know really well, I don't watch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And as a coach that you're always doing something, you're always involved. How do you teach the kids to be great without the ball in your sport?
Ooh, that's a great question. That's a very difficult thing to do. I don't know. I don't watch the ball either, honestly. Like, I stare at the middle of the lane. I look out the sides of my eyes to see what's going on, because that's where the action is. Because I mean, the 3-point, as soon as it goes up, they were ready for it, 20 feet away. They just hadn't moved to it yet. It's a difficult thing to teach. You really have to break things down and slow it down to show them step by step what's going on. And it has to be like, hey, we're going to run it this way. And if the helper doesn't, come in at the right time, this is going to happen here. Here's why moving backwards at this timing is so important to make sure we're cutting off the baseline or whatever it is. But that's one of the things that I had to get used to the most about transitioning from, former player back in the day to a coach. And as I've talked with other, new coaches on the sidelines, it's really difficult to break down something that innately how to do and how to time and look at as a player. How do you break it down and explain it in a way that doesn't make you, just sound like a textbook to these kids?
Isn't that interesting? Because we always hear the old theory that great players can't make great coaches, because sometimes
it doesn't work.
It's too easy, right. In a sense. I mean, again,
it's hard to teach something that comes natural to you, because now you've got to think about how and why you did what you did to try to teach it to somebody else. And maybe that's a 2-step process. Maybe that's a 5-step process. Maybe that's talking. Like we talk a lot about sport IQ, like
30 seconds.
You have to find a way to teach that throughout the game as well, and give the kids that experience. But sometimes you only get that IQ through the experience of it.
Absolutely. And sticking to conceptual systems and, not running a lot of sets. Like, here's the situation. How are you going to problem solve it? So I like to throw it out to the kids sometimes too.
Katie Gage, head coach of the Newman Catholic girls basketball team. Again, it was fun watching you play. Now it's fun watching you coach. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We have a top of the hour news update, and then our student athlete guest, Julian Scalcucci, at 7:06 here on WXEO. And welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO on the Civic Media app and on YouTube at youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel. With former Wausau West head hockey coach BJ Brandt and current athletic director, I am Chad Holmes, and it's time now for our student athlete guest for this week. From Wausau West Hockey, junior goaltender Julian Scalcucci. And Julian, great to have you on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, let's jump right in and talk a little bit about the season as a whole, because your guys have been just, I think, really consistent this season. I mean, to go through a long winter sports season and you play a lot of games and you have a lot of travel, and you've been, 18-1 now on the season. Coming into the campaign, what were your expectations for this group? Because I think there were a lot of expectations from the outside. What about from within, especially yourself?
I mean, just coming into it, like having a lot of returning guys, like group, we've been together our whole lives. So, I mean, like for the seniors, I mean, that's it for them. So, I mean, like our last go around as a group. So we were all pretty excited coming in. Obviously, we have our goals. We made the state tournament last year. And I think that's a big goal for us to go back there and win it this year. Probably our number one goal, right? I mean, we're 18-1, so we've taken care of business for the most part. I mean, had a couple games that I think we could have done a little bit better, or maybe not the outcome we've wanted, like Spash and maybe Marshfield. But I mean, I think those experiences I think can help us in the playoffs. Especially last year, like we had some similar outcomes, and I think just being able to build a bunch of different experiences and put them on to each other can get you to win games in late February.
So, Julian, talk a little bit about your hockey career here, and then I mean from learn to skate to where you are now. Was goalie always your position in mind, and if you could play any other position besides goalie, what would it be?
So started playing goalie around my full goalie or second year squirts. I think in mites I pretty much always wanted to be a goalie. My dad was kind of hesitant about it, but I mean I loved it so much, and he was in full support of it. So there's that, and then. What was
if you could play a different position, what would it be?
Oh, definitely forward. I'd like to score some goals sometimes.
Have you scored goals in the past when you were younger? Have you ever scored goals?
My first year of squirts, yeah, but not many.
What's the best part of being a goaltender?
Just the compete aspect for me, like getting to work every day, and I mean, I'm all alone back there, so I think that's another. It's a lot different than the other 5 positions, I'd say. For the other 5 skaters, just because it's totally different. It's a totally different game.
Who do you talk to in terms of goaltending? Because again, it's a specialty within the sport. Do you have a special coach that you work with at all?
Weeks, and then in the summer I work down in Sun Prairie with.
Yeah, because often I've heard that you have during the off season goaltenders have special coaches.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Yes, for me, yes.
What do you get from somebody that's, I mean, obviously, Sam Wiegert is a terrific goaltender at Wausau West and knows his stuff. What do you get from somebody on the outside as opposed to maybe somebody that you see almost every day?
I just think different views of the position, like trying different things and seeing what can work for you. Because like I'm a lot smaller, so what I do might not necessarily work for someone who's 6'4", and vice versa.
Talk about your path. You've had as a freshman, you found your way into the lineup a little bit, and then last year you got pretty much every game throughout the year. Talk about what that experience has been like so far.
I mean, it's been great, to be honest. Like just being a Warrior, like I'm an East kid, so I wasn't really sure how that was gonna end up, like switching schools and stuff, but it's been great. Like get to play majority of games all 3 years so far. So
was there a game maybe your freshman year that it kind of felt right? Because you say you kind of came into it. Was there a point during the freshman year where it kind of came together for you?
I mean, I think my first opportunity I had against Rapids, like had a great game that game, and really just I had a lot of confidence after, and like this is like I was just saying like this is my net, and had to prove it every time at practice, every game. So I mean, like I knew that I could do it. It was just getting the opportunity and making the most of it.
Let me ask you about in the freshman year, the playoff game at Hudson, because was that a case sometimes where as a freshman you almost didn't know any better, you just went out there and played the game? Because that night you were really in we were talking before you came on the air, it was a night where you're getting a lot of action, you were in the zone, it felt like between the pipes. What was that experience like, to go into a place like Hudson with their great hockey tradition and being a freshman, a playoff game? Remember they had the spotlights before the game and everything going on. Talk a little bit about that game and how important was that maybe as a springboard to the great year you had last year?
I just think like I go into every game like it's just another game where I try to, because when I'm just having fun out there and smiling and having a good time, it happens to be it correlates with how you play. So I mean that was part of that, and then the lights there and the atmosphere, it was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool place to play.
Talk about we talk as hockey players too, and a lot of the people we've talked to on this show, and obviously I know your story a little bit, but tell everybody what it takes to play at the level that you play at. What is the, I'm going to use air quotes, Chad, what does the off season look like? What other teams do you play for to prepare to have a successful high school season?
So in the fall and the spring, I play with Team Wisconsin. So we get to play, or this year we get to play in the Minnesota Elite League. So 6 teams from Minnesota, 1 from North Dakota, a bunch of Division I commits on there. So to compare the top kids in Wisconsin to those Minnesota kids really gets you ready for the high school season and or even beyond high school, the next level of juniors. Like this is the best hockey you can play before junior hockey, in my opinion. So that gets you, Team Wisconsin does a good job of getting kids ready for the next level. And then in the summer, like the off season, spring, summer, like it's just a lot of, if you want to play at the next level, you got to be willing to put in work outside of the rink. So a lot of that, like make sure you're eating well, drink lots of water, getting the work and taking care of your body is a big one for me, especially as a goalie. There's so many young goalies that 20 years old and they can't play anymore because their body fails on them. So that's a big part of it.
Again, we're talking to Wausau West junior goaltender Julian Scalcucci here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Silly question. Do you have, I remember, and again, maybe I'm wrong and maybe the timing is off, that some of the players that go off to play in like these other teams in the off season, they start immediately after the state tournament. That sometimes it could be within days.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Yeah. I mean, last year we ended up losing in the semifinal, and the next day I was playing the first round of state with TW. So it's kind of, in my opinion, it sucks because like you get like so many, like the TW kids are in the state championship game, and like our first game at state last year for TW, I think we had maybe 12 kids when the teams you play have 20.
And also again, my editorial comment is that the state hockey tournament should be sort of a holiday for everybody else to come and see the games.
Well, I think one of the things that, and Julian, you can add to this, but I feel like when you're a Team Wisconsin kid that makes it to the state tournament, you go through so much emotion because you've just had 5 months with your team and like the loss we had last year, like there's so much emotion that goes into that. Your season's over. You're saying goodbye to your seniors. You have that last locker room, but then you guys have to pull it together and go compete at a high level again. I mean, because it's kind of some high stakes stuff because you have to get to central districts, and from central districts you can qualify for USA Hockey Nationals, which in the recruiting landscape is the places that you're going to get noticed in that. So you want to really make sure that's probably hard to do for those Team Wisconsin athletes.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I think me and Cooper were feeling it, and same with the Brookfield kids we had last year right away. And then even when the winners came back, like the Edgewood kids, like they just want to be with their team, and like you can fully understand that, like you just want a state championship. And then like with the Team Wisconsin kids too, like our age group's tight for the most part. Like we all want to get to the national tournament, but for it to be, we get no practices right before the tier 1 stuff. I mean, it's definitely a disadvantage for us.
How did you play, by the way, the next day after the state tournament game when you went back to TW? Did you play well?
Yeah, actually, we did get the first game we got the win 7. I forgot the score, but it took us a little bit. Like, we went down early. We had to fight our ways back, but once we got our feet moving back as a group, we ended up playing well, and then didn't go our way the second game.
What about the goalie's a unique position? It's like he says, you're alone a lot. What's something unique about being goalie that the average fan or the average person who walks into the rink may or may not know about the position?
That it's definitely a lot more mental than physical. Like, when you're in the game, you get into a rhythm. Like, when I get into a rhythm, like, it's tough to beat me, but like, when I'm not, it's a totally different story. And I think that goes a lot, like, the high end guys. Like, I look at like the NHL versus something like the AHL or Division 1, Division 3. Like, a lot of it is mental. Like, everyone, once you get to a certain spot, like, everyone's good. Everyone can stop the puck. It's who can do it consistently day in, day out.
As along that I think I've mentioned this to you previously, because I think it was a game in Brookfield maybe that, and there's other places like Stevens Point that the students will get on the goaltenders.
Yeah.
So they're right there. They're right behind you. Do you ever hear the students, some of those rowdy places, or do you ever, by any chance, even chirp back a little bit with some of these students as well?
I definitely don't chirp back at the students, but you can for sure hear them. But I mean, you look at the college games, and I mean, it's just part of the game. Like, it's just outside noise that you have to just block out.
Back in the day, I got to say this, back like a story back, because when I was going to high school, and I went to Everest, and I was not a player, but I would go to the games. And back in that era, and I'm sure with Wisconsin, what did they yell at the goalie when they
scored? It was Civ.
Civ.
Constantly.
And we would yell Civ. And there's one night at Marathon Park, and we're yelling Civ at the goaltender. And the old AD, Jack Overgaard? Do you remember Jack Overgaard?
Yep, absolutely.
He was the AD at Everest. He got to grab that. We don't do that here. But I mean, hey, goaltenders are used to that stuff, aren't you? I mean, that wouldn't bother you, would it?
No.
Talk about your parents and your family and how much they've meant to you in this process, because being a goalie, Chad, is, there's a lot of, when you're a youth kid, as a parent, you're like, maybe I want my kid to be a goalie, but maybe I don't. Talk about the support your mom and dad and sister have given you through this process.
I mean, yeah, like, it's been unbelievable how much my parents and grandparents have been able to do for me. Like, just a lot. It's a lot of money. Like, and I know, like, that, like, I definitely would not be able to play at the level I play at without them. Like, grandparents, parents, aunts and uncles, like, everyone is on my team. We're all pulling. So,
well, I mean, when you look at the gear, Chad, just the gear alone, it looks cool. And there's there is a fashion of goaltender setup, and Julian is dialed into it, and he's had different setups throughout his career. So it's always fun for me to watch the goalie setups and the fashion of goalie gear.
It's pretty sick.
Stepping away from the ice for a few moments, do you have a favorite class in school?
Probably all my business classes. I like those. The teachers are great too, which definitely helps.
Who's your favorite teacher?
I like Mr. Hurt.
Have you played any other sports?
I played baseball up until my freshman year, and golf a little bit when I can.
By the way, what position did you play in baseball?
I was a first baseman.
Oh, you weren't a catcher. Well, I thought goalies and catchers, the tools of ignorance, they call it in baseball, when you, again, I mean, we talked about the fact that, you go from a state tournament game to another state tournament or another tournament game with TW. But when you do have a few moments to maybe get away from it all, is there anything particular you like to do? Anything just for fun?
Yeah, hunt and fish for sure. Like, we got a cabin up northern Michigan, so I'm pretty fortunate to go up there and just do something else in hockey, which is pretty nice when you get a chance.
There's not many moments there.
I think so.
What when you've hunted, do you have a prized buck or a prized hunt that you remember that's super memorable for you?
Definitely get my first turkey last year. It was pretty cool. it's a lot different than deer hunting. Just you're so much more in it, I feel like.
Is there a favorite venue that you played in? It could be with Wausau West or with TW, because actually I was talking to somebody and like it feels like some places goaltenders may see the puck better. Is there a place that you'd always felt really comfortable stepping onto the ice?
Definitely the coolest rink I've played at is Avon Old Farms in Connecticut. It's like a college prep school. It was really, really cool. My favorite though, in Wisconsin, I love playing at the Dome. I used to play there all the time.
Yeah,
it's spring hockey as a little kid, so anytime I can go back up there, it's always pretty cool.
One of the things people may not realize is you have to be able to see the puck wherever it is, and sometimes the rink setup can be challenging. What is the hardest rink to track pucks and to be a goaltender in?
I don't like bouncy boards, so I'm not a big fan of Cornerstone. Cap ice was really weird. That's a really weird rink in my opinion.
And that's where the state tournament is. And what's interesting is when you look when Julian's in that net, the end we were on, you look down to the other end, it's navy. It's navy everywhere. Well, when a puck is shot, black and navy, like as these guys track pucks and track things. So it's really interesting to me when you go around a rink and you think about it from the lens of the goaltender, how are they able to track pucks? And it's a different thing to think about.
Same with like Olympic sheets. Like it changes everything because you get 7 more feet on each side, and like when they carry it out past the dots, like your whole angles that you have, it changes. So like when we go from our small rink at Marathon to go into like having to play at Green Neck or Cornerstone, like it's a big difference.
And you seem like the kind of goalie, when I watch you, when you see the puck, you make the save. And remember the USM game, you were listening, and there was one shot where I couldn't see you, and somehow you made the save. And that day you had like 52 saves or something like that, or I think maybe a few more than that in that game. You mentioned about the future. What are your goals hockey wise? Because you're a junior now.
Yeah.
What does your future look like?
After high school, I'd like to play junior hockey. That's my goal. Like I'm gonna play juniors, so definitely start with there, and then I'd like to play collegiate hockey.
And that's always one of the odd things about hockey. We taught to athletes, student athletes during the course of the year. Hockey is unique, isn't it, in terms of trying to map out your future?
Yeah,
I mean it really is something.
No one's path is the same.
No, and that's one of the very interesting aspects. Have you talked to folks in certain leagues or junior teams or anything like that?
I mean,
have you started that process?
Yeah, I have. So I'm not really sure what my plans are for next season yet. It depends if the opportunity is the right one.
Talk a little bit, Julian. You guys have 5 regular season games left. You've had just an outstanding, regular season up to this point. How have you used this experience compared to last year's experience, and what are you looking forward to? And I can imagine there's a date circled on the calendar that you might be looking forward to. But what are you looking to get out of these last 5 games to prep yourselves for the run?
I think to me, it's just finding consistency in my game, trying to stay more level-headed. I think I've been kind of getting off that, which is fine. We have 5 games left, so not too worried. And then our team as a general, just trying to get a consistent back to where, how we can play. We've had some sloppy games the past 2 or 3, so I think using New Richmond is going to be great. New Richmond Spash. Those will be 2 tough tests this week. They'll get us ready. And then we have a tough game against NHM at home right before the playoffs. So just getting more different experiences and situations to really gear up for the end of the season.
When you look at it, Chad, we've got non-conference on Saturday and then 3 conference games, and then finish it up at a tough Neenah team at the end. So you look the way that schedule is for you, it certainly sets you guys up to be prepared to make a run in the playoffs, regardless of what the seeding looks like.
Do you notice that when, say, the top 3 teams in the state are all in your same bracket? Do you say, boy, it's going to be another really difficult playoff run? Because last year was just amazing. I mean, it was such a great run. I mean, you may be a higher seed this year, but it's still not going to be any easier, is it?
No, it's not. I think we have the toughest section year in, year out. you look at the top 6, like 3-4 teams are in our
Mhm.
section every year, which in my opinion, I wish it was 8 teams or 8 sections.
You have no
At least
argument
for
here.
Division
I
One.
think.
Julian, we align on
Yeah.
that.
But it is what it is, and I think it made our run last year even more special coming out of that section. Like winning that section is just every
Mhm.
bit as hard as winning the state tournament.
Yes, it was definitely was. And well, let me ask you about. I know you're going to be focused on New Richmond,
Mhm.
but what about the game Monday? I mean, Stevens Point. You saw them at Willett. People forget that you saw them actually in the scrimmage back at the start of the year. What do your teammates have to do to sort of get that Spash monkey off your back?
I mean, yeah, they've had our number for 5 or 6 seasons now. So, but for me, just another game. Like, you can't treat it as anything else.
Mm.
Like last time, I think we did.
Mm.
And that's how we got away from our game. Like, we just put a ton of pressure on us. Like, we were 10-0, and like we were still like they've been winning games for years in our group. Like my freshman year, we were 500. So still trying to figure out even how to win games. Like you face a team like Spash that knows how to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different.
Well, Chad, to answer your question, what do they have to do? Have one more than Spash at the end of the night.
That's why you were a coach and I'm a broadcaster.
Yeah, well, I didn't have a lot of luck the last few years against the Panthers either. Talk about that rivalry. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to Wausau West and just what are you looking forward to? I know Chad talked about like you individually, what you got to do, but what's exciting about Monday night at Marathon Park?
One thing that's cool when we get to play Spash, I get to play against my friends. So we've been playing with those kids for quite some time on Team Wisconsin spring teams. So I mean that's cool. I mean we always like talk to each other about it, like chirps and stuff before like in the T-Dub season. So I mean, but to Wausau West, like I think our group like this game like means a lot to our group, especially after our performance last time against them. Like that wasn't us. Like a 6-0 game doesn't tell you who we are, in my opinion. Like we didn't play good and they did, and that's what happens when you play good teams.
Playing poker?
Yeah, I do.
Because you share this when we were down in Brookfield. Was it Brookfield?
Yeah, Milwaukee.
Waukesha. Get to the hotel because that's the overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sort of standing around like I tend to do, like a drifter in a hotel. And he comes in, he's got his poker chips, and it's like, yeah, come on up. And I was so tempted, but I was just so tired too. It was such a long day. I worked early, but every time I think about that, I said, I could have taught you guys a lesson. No. I just found that interesting. That is cool to see, though.
Yeah, but, I mean, like it kind of came a thing like Team Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
We'd have like one game a day, so we'd have a lot of downtime at the hotel and just finding stuff to do. And that was always.
Do you usually win?
Well, one of my buddies would always. He had it down. But
he could read you well.
Yeah, he could read everyone.
You got to wear a goalie mask.
Yeah.
BJ, anything else before we ask the final question?
No, I'm just excited for you, Julian. I'm excited that you're here tonight. Obviously, I've known him since he learned to skate. So just excited to watch your path and just be a part of it.
Our final question is, and usually it's for a senior, but you're a junior, but we're still going to ask because you've been, on the varsity squad for 3 years. You've had a lot of experience in terms of traveling and being part of teams. Based on what you've learned, based on your experiences, what piece of advice would you give a young hockey player that's just starting their journey, maybe as a freshman?
I'd just say work hard. Like I've been, like when I was young, I wasn't always the best. Like didn't really, I'd say, get to where I would want to be till I was about 14. And now I'm kind of having that again where it's like I have to like, it's like I'm chased. Like I'm always like, I feel like I'm more of a late bloomer than someone who's like people like always been good. Like, so just work hard and don't listen to people. Like don't listen to the outside noise because everyone's path is so much different in this sport. Like just no one's is the same.
Mhm. Oh, real fast. Is there a goaltender that you kind of pattern yourself after?
Definitely some like the smaller guys. UC Saros comes to mind. I'd be 5'10", smallest goalie in the league. And that's one thing that isn't to my advantage, but I don't really look at it as something that defines me because I can't change it. So,
Very good.
mhm.
Julian Scalcucci, thank you for coming on
Yeah.
by.
Thank you.
Best of luck down the stretch and in the postseason.
Thank you.
We're going to take a timeout. We're going to talk about what is going on in the world of Central Wisconsin hockey coming up next. Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. On Thursday night, the Wausau West High School boys basketball team makes the short trip to DC Everest for a Wisconsin Valley Conference matchup. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 7 p.m. and the opening tip at 7:15. Wausau West basketball on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by Rocket Industrial and the Wausau Business Show, Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Mike Whitmore Construction, the Clover Belt Credit Union, sponsor of the Clover Belt Credit Union broadcast booth, and Operating Engineers Local 139, our high school ultimate sports sponsor. It's Wausau West at DC Everest and high school boys basketball. Thursday night, starting with the pregame show at 7, opening tip at 7:15 on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Saturday night, the Wausau West hockey team looks to extend their win streak to 10 games in a row when the Warriors play host to New Richmond. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:35 and the opening face-off at 7 p.m. Wausau West hockey on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Clover Belt Credit Union, sponsor of the Clover Belt Credit Union broadcast booth, Rocket Industrial, and the Wausau Business Show, the Wausau Cyclones, the Wausau West Hockey Booster Club, Four Seasons Golf of Wausau, Mike Whitmore Construction, and Operating Engineers Local 139. Our ultimate sports sponsor is Wausau West Hockey versus New Richmond. Saturday night, starting with the pregame show at 6:35 on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO. You know, the thing about, I want to share like my style, because I know a lot of people would come in to have a bunch of questions written out. And sometimes I feel like, you know, we do wander, because I kind of wander sometimes, but I find it be better to have a discussion, not have a list of questions, and just sort of let the conversation go where it goes. And I think the last two, were indicative of why I prefer to just have conversations.
It's way more comfortable. It's way more relaxing. I think it makes the person in the room that isn't as comfortable with you know, talking on live radio, and it just frees them up a little bit. I think, you know, these to get some of the goaltender position in hockey is such a different position in all of sports. I mean, when you look at the equipment they wear and you know, at the NHL level, 105-mile-an-hour slap shots coming at you, not many people volunteer to stand in front of those, Chad.
Nope, and not flinch.
Not flinch.
Not flinch at all. Hey, let's talk about what's going on in hockey, because, I mean, what are we, 2 weeks away from the CD meetings?
City meeting is the 8th, I believe, Chad. Sunday the 8th.
Real. So that's right? A week from Sunday, a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeesh. Still a lot to play for. Let's start with the Wisconsin Valley Conference. You got Stevens Point, 6-0, 15-2 overall. Wausau West, 6-1, 18-1 overall. DC Everest, 5-3 in the conference, 10-7 overall. Marshfield, I think, a much improved team this year. They're 2-5 in the conference, 7-10 overall. Rapids is 1-5 in the conference, 6-12, and then EMU is 1-7 and 5-12. And again, I think you could argue that the bottom three teams are all better than they were a year ago.
Yeah, I think so. When you look at how they've played each other, how they've played against the, you know, the upper end of the conference, the games have been a little bit tighter. And it's just fun to watch the game grow a little bit, especially within the Valley.
Last Thursday, of course, the West Smash game was postponed, but they did play over at Greenheck Turner. Marshfield came out, and again, I was surprised how Marshfield carried a big portion of that hockey game. Blake Meisner scored a goal early in the third period, give Marshfield a 1-0 lead. It looked like it was going to hold up, but then Xavier May scored with 36 seconds left in the third, and Ethan Whitmore lit the lamp about 6 minutes into the OT to give Everest a 2-1 win over Marshfield. Griffin Bonnell, again, was the key cog, and as we get to the playoffs, again, DC Everest, they've had trouble scoring. We talked last week, they had a 1-0 loss to Chippewa Falls. But boy, when you only give up 1 or 0 or 2, I mean, you're going to be in every game. And they got a really good goaltender, and they still do have some experience there that I think is going to make them a very dangerous team to whoever they draw in that early round of the playoffs.
Yeah, they certainly are. When you're that old, they're an old group, they're an experienced group, and Griff obviously gives them a chance to win. I feel like that was a little bit of a zing, Chad, telling me that only Marshfield and Everest played on Thursday, but we'll let that slide.
Yeah, we'll let that slide. But also, I think another point to be made about Everest is that it did not feel like they panicked either. I think you said it; they're an old team, an experienced team. Sometimes you're down 1-0 and you're at home, you're squeezing that stick really hard. It didn't look like that to me watching it.
No, and even in the overtime, I watched the overtime, and it they looked comfortable. I mean, they had some chances, and then obviously they get that grade A with Ethan Whitmore, and he shot a little blocker and was able to end the game for Everest.
Let's touch on. We'll start at the bottom and move our way to the top. Again, Rapids, they played Saturday. They lost to Sun Prairie 7-1, but then last night they went to Pacelli and won 6-4. And then Marshfield, again, they bounced back from that Thursday game and went to Toma Sparta. Toma Sparta team that has a winning record, and Marshfield dominated 7-1. Wyatt Fisher a hat trick. Blake Meisner 2 goals for Marshfield. 41-13 edge and shots. And again, you hear people. I heard people talk last week. Oh, West only beat Marshfield 6-4. Well, again, there's some pretty good hockey teams that are not in the top 6 of the rankings.
No, and Marshfield's much improved.
Yep.
I mean, when you look at their offensive output compared from a year ago, I think their greatest issue right now is the backside. And like when it comes to the play of their goaltending and how they're defending, but they've certainly proven that they can put the puck in the net.
Let's talk about the 2 teams at the top. They were both in action last night. Stevens Point lost earlier this year. The team that snapped their long regular season win streak was Nina Menasha Hortonville, or Nina Hortonville Menasha, whichever way you want to call it. Stevens Point last night at the Willett, 8-0. A dominant performance. Grant Molsky lit the lamp 3 times. Zach Burdick, who we saw play very well against West earlier this year at 28 saves. Stevens Point looks like they're kind of ready for Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little surprising. I think Nina's got a few injuries in their lineup that changes their dynamic a little bit. Yeah. But obviously, to put the puck in 8 times against Nina, that's Spash is obviously preparing themselves. They've got a big matchup coming up on Friday with the University School.
Actually, I think this game against Everest will be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you look at the goaltending matchups here, it'll be interesting to watch. But Everest has got to go down to Spash. That's a tough place to play.
But for whatever reason, I mean, I saw some of the first meeting between Spash and Everest, and Spash really kind of took it to him. I think one of the rare games where Everest was really popped pretty good, actually. And we've talked about this in the past. If you're Wausau West, you'd rather play them at Greenheck than at Marathon Park, and I think it's the same thing. I think Everest has a better chance going down to KB Willett than they do at their own home rink.
Yeah, a little smaller sheet, little less area to defend, and obviously, Spash plays well there, but again, it's like Julian will tell you, it's a little different for the goalies as they go through from an Olympic sheet, which is 100 feet wide, versus the NHL size, which is 85 feet wide.
By the way, you said at the game Friday, man, I would almost like to go down there and watch that game, because that one really intrigues me, Stevens Point and U School, because again, as we look at Wausau West season, I don't know if anybody put as much pressure on Wausau West as University School did that Saturday afternoon back in December.
Yeah, I mean, it's a top 6 matchup. When you look at Spash's schedule here, they go Everest, University School, Wausau West. You're going to have that's two top 6 matchups back to back for them. It'll be interesting. University School's played well here. They've really played well the second half of the season. and it should be a great top 6 matchup in our state.
And last night, in a game that we had right here on 98.9 WXCO, Wausau West defeated East Merrill United by a score of 12-1. Xander DeBile had 4 goals in the game for the Warriors. Cooper DePoit had a hat trick, and also he broke a record that had been on the books at Wausau West since 1989. Chad Zowen had held that mark for career points in Wausau West jersey, and Cooper DePoit was able to do it and break the record with his 5th point last night.
Yeah, it was pretty fun to watch. I mean, Chad Zowen's held that record since 1989. As a kid, remember watching him up and down the rink wearing, I think he wore number 10 for the Warriors. But it was the coolest part, though, is Cooper and Chad scouts for a team at the North American League level. So they have had connections and conversations. So it was really neat for me to be able to text Chad last night and say, hey, your record finally went down since your amazing career at West, and he was able to send Cooper a congratulations text. So it's such a small world within the hockey community, and certainly within our Warrior alumni group.
Absolutely. Very, very cool indeed. We mentioned what Stevens Point has coming up. The Warriors are off till Saturday. The New Richmond comes in. Rematch of what was an incredible playoff game on that same rink about a year ago, where West came from 2 goals down in the 3rd period to pull it out 6-5 in advance of the sectional final. And then, of course, Monday, Stevens Point and Wausau West. We already previewed it in depthly last week. He's like, yeah, we're going to be playing that game last Thursday. Instead, it got colded out, and now we're going to do it again on Monday. And I don't know. I don't know what it means ultimately. I don't know if it means good for Stevens Point, bad for West, because I mean, we saw the first time around they postponed it, and I don't know if for one team or the other, if you have to wait, it makes a big difference. Any thoughts on that? Because I mean, it's sort of ironic here that for the second time, the scheduled date of the game has been changed.
It changes things a little bit, because when you go into a Monday game, you may or may not have practice on Sunday. And getting that extra ice touch or being able to get on the ice can matter. So depending on how the coaches schedule those things, sometimes like the basketball teams, if they play on a Tuesday or Monday, they might practice on Sunday, because you got to get one off for every 7 days. And that's typically Saturday. But I don't think the day itself, I personally like it, because it's one of a few games around the state on a Monday. So if you want to come down to Marathon Park and catch a great high school hockey game, it'll be a great time to do it.
Get there early.
And
don't take my spot. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, the Great Northern Conference. You got Tomahawk 16-3, 8-0 in the conference. Pines 14-2, 7-1. Mosinee 6. Well, Mosinee, this is always wrong listed here. I gotta find out real quickly what the Mosinee record is real fast. I don't know why they're always listed wrong. 11-8 overall for Mosinee, 5-2. Then Anago is 12-6, 5-4. Lakeland 4-6 in conference. Wapaka 4-6. Medford and Rhinelander 1-8. Last night, Mosinee and Tomahawk played again, and Tomahawk. Impressive. I was impressed that Tomahawk went and beat Mosinee 5-1. Had 5 different goal scorers as well. Tyler Bars had the only goal for Mosinee. But again, we got to keep an eye on Tomahawk as well, because they're in that Division I bracket with Wausau West and Everest and EMU and Stevens Point and all the teams, of course, to the west and to the north. But that was a good win for Tomahawk last night.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're debating whether or not the conference tournament is existing or not existing, but it would appear that was the semifinals for that conference tournament. But they're 2 for 4 on the power play. I mean, that's this time of year when you start looking at the success you want to have. The special teams matter so much, and for them to get 2 power play goals out of 4 chances, and we're able to kill off the 2 chances that Mosinee had, that just sets you up for success as you start to make this push.
You had Antigo winning in Rhinelander 4-1. Ethan Novi had 2 goals for Antigo, 25 saves for Austin Martinson. It was basically an even game in terms of shots. And the thing that kind of jumps out is, again, it shows that Rhinelanders had a really tough season. Antigo's had a really good season. They're 12-6. And in that game, it was a pretty even. It shows how far a goaltender can go, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, Austin Martinson had to feel good. He only had 25 shots on goal. That's a little different than his nights usually, so it might feel a little light for him. But they were able to get another win against Oshkosh.
Yeah,
So I mean, you look at the way that position has really helped that team have success. Has been fun to watch.
One thing about Anago that's again just watching from afar, not like the old days when we'd go over there and have to stand outside the booth and try to call the game. I don't miss that, but I miss Anago because I always liked Anago. I mean, in terms of it was always a gritty game. It was always a tough. I mean, I remember one year they went down to state and played Stevens Point back about 25 years ago. They have a pretty good hockey tradition themselves. But that game against Oshkosh you mentioned, they won it with a game-winning goal with 21 seconds to go. Alex Brittenham completed a hat trick. But we talk about knowing how to win. It looks like this Anago team, because I think of the confidence they may have in this freshman goaltender, seems to have that ability in some of these close games to win.
Yeah, and they've had a bunch of them. I mean, I think when you look at as you prepare for the playoffs, that's a dangerous team. I mean, when you think about regardless of where they're seated, because as you know, goaltenders can win you games, and somebody who has played as well as he has so far. One of the things, Chad, just a little side note, the thing I remember from Anago as a player, and way early in my coaching days, was
I know what you're going to say.
The world's longest intermissions and turkey bowling was included. A frozen turkey was being bowled down the middle of the rink.
Because we'd always hear about, well, number one, Anago always was going with like two lines. Because, they would just roll two lines. And because they had some really good players, but they were not deep. And they would run two lines, and they would need a long time for those intermissions. And of course, there was no strategy to it. It was just happened to be that way. Slow Zambonis and turkey bowling and all that stuff. But that's exactly right. And they were always they were tough. I mean, frankly, one of the you want to talk about memories, I think one of the most disappointing Wausau West performances ever came against Anago in a playoff game.
In a sectional final. Was that the sectional?
Not the sectional final game. They actually played at Marathon Park one year, and Anago came in and just whooped them. I mean, it was probably in the early 2000s there, and it was one of those nights. It was that stretch where West couldn't get through the playoffs.
Yeah,
and one of the nights was against Anago. But you're right. Now you bring up the sectional final.
That
was not a good one either.
No, but but
Anago. But I guess the point being made is, many of these years, Anago's had really good hockey.
They've had some really relevant teams. I mean, I think back to my early days as a head coach, like they were making sectional finals, and unfortunately for them, they ran into a really good Wausau West team, and we were able to get through them. And then there was the one time we didn't
until they did it. Yeah, until
another publication who is based out of Anago seems to always remind us of that.
I still remember because they got all over me for that one. I heard I got so many messages on social media from Anago that day because they had all picked Anago to win. And I said, how the heck could you guys pick Anago? And they were listening because then they said, oh, you were right. That's why it's never good to pick games.
I'll choose to keep those to myself.
But that's fun stuff, though.
But it'll be good. I mean, Anago has an opportunity here at the Division II level to make a nice playoff push here.
Pines beat Wapaka 9-0 last night. I guess talking about Pines and talking about Mosinee, unfortunately, the cold weather wiped away their tournament last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this will be interesting as we go into the seeding for this. As you go into that section, because you've got Pines, who is 14-3 right now. Mosinee's living right around 500. You kind of look at the big picture. Pines has probably played better throughout the entire picture of the season, but the head-to-head matchup matters. And we don't have a computer to figure out what that looks like.
By the way, because when you were talking about this earlier, it came into my mind. How much better does a team have to be the rest of the season to overcome in your mind? Because you said it, the head-to-head ultimately is the big thing. But there's got to be a limit. You can't be 7-8 games worse than the other team and be seated higher. Or is it a case where if you're connected, but say if there's a big gap for whatever reason, let's pretend that Mosinee was a 7 and Pines was a 2, just based on the whole season. But you had that one game that stood out. You don't move Mosinee way up and Pines way down if there's a big gap in there, right?
I mean, the reality is the seeding meeting is the big picture of the entire year. Now, first criteria is head to head, but the reality is, like, there's other things in there that matter. The common opponents and common losses, common wins, or the differential wins and losses matters. You know, if a player was injured on a night when they played and a win or a loss happened, like those things do matter. So that's where the human element comes in. And that's what I love about this seeding process, because I feel, and this is a feeling, I probably don't have any data to back it up, is that the coaches ultimately get this right. And
you got to put your name behind it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You own it. You have to own it in the seating meeting. I mean, it's all up on the board. And here's the thing,
you
Jeff,
want respect.
You want
you
respect.
You lose
and here's
it
the other
if
part.
you lie.
Coaches remember.
Yeah. Yes,
Coaches remember these meetings and what happens in them and maybe what didn't happen in them. So it's one of those things where I really love the homework that coaches put in on it.
By the way, I remember years ago when Jeff Brugink was coaching the boys over at Wausau West boys basketball, he had this huge binder for the seating meeting. He came prepared. I saw it one time. It was like, holy cow. He's talking about information. He must have every bit of information throughout the entire season for every one of those teams to go into that meeting.
But I think that's part of your job.
Exactly.
That is part of your job. I mean, for me, it was a 11 by 17 spreadsheet of every matchup and every ranking and everything that you kind of go into it. And it's a fun little puzzle to put together.
Just looking ahead at some of the interesting matchups for GNC teams tomorrow night, actually, Pines. You talked about Pines. They have a chance to get a pretty good chip against Bay Area Storm tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a great matchup. I think when you look at what Bay Area has been able to do throughout the year, and they're going to go into Pines. I mean, you've got to go on the road and play in the Dome in Eagle River. That'll be a great matchup and a great game.
And by the way, next Thursday, again, I'm looking at the schedule, and it has 3 games listed: Wapaka, Mosinee, Rhinelander, Lakeland, Anago, Medford. I'm thinking, well, where is that Pines Tomahawk game? It would fit, but I don't see it listed. And again, the GNC is baffling to me in terms of trying to figure out this tournament and all this stuff and scheduling. But it would be nice if Pines played Tomahawk.
It sure would nice to see that game. I was going to make the comment: do the basketball teams do a GNC tournament?
I shouldn't say. I don't think so.
I don't believe so either. They just play the double round robin and crown a champion. See what I really like that idea.
I mean, it's so simple. I mean, it's the way it should be. And it wasn't listed on Prep Hockey, but at the Dome next Tuesday night, Tomahawk at Pines. So there you go.
That's going to be an outstanding matchup at the Dome. That'll be packed. Just an outstanding environment for that.
That is what we like to see.
It is what you like to see. You've got the 2 best teams in the conference playing at the end of the season. Whether or not it's for conference championship, we don't know, but that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I agree. And again, these teams deserve to play each other home and home. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Valley girls hockey. Storm did not play this week, but I saw a score from Saturday, and I thought this is the microcosm of girls high school hockey in the state of Wisconsin this year. Chippewa Falls Menominee 2, Black River Falls 1. that is it. These teams are so close, and they're all all these goaltenders must be really good this year because they're all playing these 1-goal games, 2-1, or even a Black River Falls last night, major game in the conference, went to Wisconsin Valley Union, won 3-2. I mean, call that a high-scoring game.
but you look at all of them have been 1 to 2 goal games.
Yes.
And it comes down to special teams. It comes down to your power play executing. And honestly, like the goaltending, I think in the conference is up collectively. Even when you look at Medford, their goaltender stops a ton of pucks against the Storm. I think she stopped over 70 shots that night. So like even in those moments where teams are more skilled than one, there is that position of goaltender to keep the game tight. And even throughout the state, I think you've seen that with a bunch of games. And obviously for the Storm, they've got a heck of a schedule coming up.
What a week. I mean, and I did not know till today they're playing up at Hayward on Friday night. Massive game. They got a massive game against Black River Falls. It's for the conference championship. Black River Falls, gotta give them credit. They were down 1-0 and 2-1 against Wisconsin Valley Union, came back to win it on the road 3-2 last night. But Storm, if they can get a win, can move into a tie for first place. And then next Wednesday, they go to Superior in a makeup game from last Friday. This is going to show a lot about the Central Wisconsin Storm, these 3 games, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that they've got a great stretch of games here, and having a week off, you've been able to prepare for this. You know what's coming. You've been able to tinker a little bit to see what your line combinations can be, and you've played a tight game against Hayward. One probably you felt like you should have had. Felt like you played better than, and then Superior.
That was the tie game.
That was the tie game. Yep, 1-1. And then you look at the Superior matchup. I just rewatched the game today, and they played well. They were down 3-1 at one point, and were able to battle back to get it to 3-3, and just a little miscue at the end that ultimately gave Superior the winning goal.
And the thing about it is, this is what you want. If you want a chance to move up in the seedings, if you win both those games, you got a pretty good argument to make in that meeting, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And I think that's where, but at the same time, you can't put that pressure on you. That's for the coaches.
I don't know. I'm not saying who.
No, but as the players, as the coaches, you just got to go play the game. And the reality is, you probably have a pretty even matchup against Hayward and a pretty even matchup against Superior. So this is an opportunity to put your team in a pressure moment to see what you can do on the road for both of them.
And also, I'm very curious to see, because next Tuesday's game will be at Marathon Park against Black River Falls. Did the game the first time around over at Black River Falls, and it was not a great night for the Storm. But I mean, Black River Falls, they play a lot of tight hockey games. I mean, that's the way they've done it, and nobody's beat them yet in that conference.
No, and they've played really well. I mean, their goaltenders played well. They've been able to score some timely goals, and obviously, I mean, the mentality of having just one more is really all they've needed.
What a challenge. I mean, these are 2 long bus rides for the team, a lot of, I guess, team bonding time, and especially you have the game against Black River Falls Tuesday, then right back at it for an early start in Superior Wednesday. I mean, great challenge for the Storm, isn't it?
Yeah, that game back to back will be interesting. I mean, they're gonna play till 9:00 at night and probably be on the bus by 11:15 or noon on Wednesday to go up there and play a really good Superior team. So
you talk about a Monday game being odd, a Wednesday
game is definitely different.
And that means you're not going to be here next week.
I will be traveling north, Chad, to catch that game.
And I won't be. Folks, I am considering going to Hayward Friday. I'm considering it. It's like as you get older, you just prefer sticking around town, to be honest with you.
It is nice to be home.
But because last week we had the back-to-backs early in the week up at Eagle River and then over at Eau Claire for me, the Storm on Monday and then Wausau West on Tuesday. I thought, man, that's a tough start to the work week.
A good start.
It was a good start. But again, it's I mean, this is really, we're getting to the nitty-gritty, aren't we?
Yeah, this is the fun time of year. I mean, you and I have talked about it for a long time of what this timeline looks like once the end of the season comes and how quickly you get to your state tournament in all sports.
Yeah.
And how important that compact time is and all the work you've done over the last 5 months comes to fruition, and it's really fun to watch high school athletes and coaches go through it.
Well, you call it the 24-game preseason?
That's right. That's you're preparing for the run.
Exactly right. So again, lots of great action coming up over the next week. Lots of action right here on 98.9 WXCO. We'll have hockey action at the very least Saturday with Weston New Richmond, Monday with Weston Stevens Point, Tuesday with Central Wisconsin Storm and Black River Falls, all vital games in terms of either conference or sectional seeding. So again, go to WXCO.FM, a complete look at our broadcast schedule. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
That's BJ Brandt. I'm Chad Holmes. We'll be back next week providing Storm updates during the course of the show, 6 till 8 p.m. Big High School Sports Show on WXCO.